What's up, everyone? This is the Wedge 52 Gridiron Podcast, and I'm your host, Wedge. Before we jump into everything, please make sure you follow and share this podcast with all your friends, fellow NFL, and fellow Ravens fans. Also, if you find interest, check us out on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. Now let's dive into the amazing things that transpired yesterday for the Baltimore Ravens. First thing that we had break was Lamar Jackson extension, the thing everybody's been waiting for. It finally happened. And then just a few short hours later, the Ravens reinforced their wide receiver core yet again with a number 22 overall pick of Zay Flowers. What a day to be a Ravens fan. This day, yesterday, April 27th, completed the off-season trifecta for myself and probably many other Ravens fans and their wish list that they had heading into this offseason. Number one was to get rid of Greg Roman and hire a new offensive coordinator, which we did a little while back with the hiring of Todd Monken. The second thing was to get elite wide receivers and to actually make a real effort to improve our wide receiver core. We've done that with the free agent signings of Odell Beckham Jr., who, yes, he's coming back from injury. Yes, he did not play last season. I believe OBJ is still an elite, top-level wide receiver who has incredible explosiveness. We all know how good his hands are. And let's be honest, OBJ was on pace to become Super Bowl MVP before he re-injured and tore his ACL to the point of no returning for himself in that game. Then we also drafted Zay Flowers to help booster that wide receiver core. We'll get more into that later. And the third part of the trifecta for the Ravens offseason that every Ravens fan wanted to see was signing Lamar Jackson to a long-term contract extension. This was probably, yesterday was draft day. Lamar's extension was probably still the biggest news in the NFL world yesterday. After trials and tribulations between Lamar and Eric DeCosta and Coach Harbaugh and the Ravens organization, between them going back and forth, between every major news and every minor news, sports news outlet talking about it for months and months, even last season before Lamar Jackson cut off contract negotiations for himself, and them discussing and them putting in their 2 words. In the end, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens agreed on a 5-year, $260 million extension. And Lamar Jackson, being the good character, being the player he is for his fans, and respecting and appreciating his fans, and the Baltimore Ravens, they decided that they wanted this news to break directly from the source. And by doing that, they allowed this news of the Lamar contract extension to first be announced from Lamar Jackson. Yes, there was a few reports, Schefter, Rappaport, insiders leaking it, but the first thing from the Ravens themselves was social media posts by Lamar Jackson addressing his fans and saying, look, I know, everyone's been having their opinion. We've been talking about this for a while, but for the next 5 years, there's going to be a whole lot of flack going on. Ravens fans were, I know, undoubtedly overjoyed from the cores of themselves, hearing that news and hearing that Lamar Jackson is committed to the Baltimore Ravens. A little bit more on his contract. Like I said, it's a 5-year, $260 million deal with $185 guaranteed, averaging $52 million a year, which puts him just over the edge of what Jalen Hurts is going to be making. He will be a Raven through 2027, like I said, and it makes sense. Why wouldn't the Ravens sign him? All along, any football fan, no matter how hardcore, you know that Lamar Jackson is one of the most elite quarterbacks in the league. It did not make sense for the Ravens to not want to sign him. 45-16 with Lamar Jackson starting at quarterback. 8-13 without. I mean, you go from a win percentage of 784 to 370 something, I want to say, with versus without Lamar Jackson. That's a player you need on your team. And that's Lamar Jackson doing that without substantial weapons. Yes, he's had Mark Andrews, who's been the top 3 tight end in the league the past few seasons. And Hollywood had, I would say, one decent season, one good season. But then Hollywood wanted out. And you just can't do it, especially in today's league. You need more than 1.5 to 2 elite weapons. So, there's a bunch of other factors going into that. People are going to say Lamar Jackson can't do it in the playoffs. We already broke that narrative. I mean, you can't put it all on the quarterback when things don't go the team's way, and you can't put it all on the quarterback when things do go the team's way. I believe that that goes both ways. If the team is winning or the team is losing, yes, the quarterback probably has the most impact, but there's several other factors that go into it, such as personnel, situations, coaching staff, play calling, health, all that. So the important thing to not forget right now, no matter what you want to say, is that Lamar Jackson is one of only 2 players to ever be elected a unanimous MVP. The only other person that has ever done that in league history is a man that many people call the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. Although at Patrick Mahomes' current pace, I believe he will overtake Tom Brady for that title. But that could be a discussion for a different day. It was critical. The Ravens already knew this, but it was especially critical after the Aaron Rodgers to the Jets trade officially happened. But if you want to compete in the AFC, if you want to make the playoffs even, to have a chance at stringing a few games together and getting to the Super Bowl and having the opportunity to win that game, you need a quarterback if you're in the AFC. You're not succeeding in that conference without a quarterback when you have quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, who should be better than what he was last year. He's got a new coaching staff. He got Trevor Lawrence. Not sure if I already mentioned that. You're not going to succeed in that conference without a quarterback. That just gets you in the ball game. Then after that, you're going to need a solid defense and elite offensive potential. So those are the things that the Ravens have been addressing. They furthered that yesterday by drafting Zay Flowers at 22nd overall in the first round of the NFL draft. I believe that this is a good pick. It's something that the Ravens have always been needing, is wide receivers. I know we've drafted a couple in the first round the past few years, with Hollywood a few years ago in 2019, and then Rashad Bateman, who Bateman's been pretty solid for us. I believe myself and all the Ravens fans are hoping for a full, healthy season with Rashad Bateman. That'll be good to see. And then the signing of OBJ earlier this offseason was the first step that kind of showed everyone that the Ravens might be serious about getting some wide receivers this time and helping out the guys they already have and helping out their quarterback. OBJ has been my favorite non-Ravens player since he entered the league. You don't have to watch much of a game to realize that how electric OBJ is and how much he can do for a team. So I'm definitely a fan of that signing. He's had time to recover. He looks explosive still. He sounds ready to go mentally and physically. So we already added OBJ. And then, normally the Ravens would say, one receiver addition. We signed Nelson Aguilar. That is the more common. Nelson Aguilar is the more common of the Ravens signings with, just in terms of history, like signing Michael Crabtree or John Brown or Sammy Watkins. No disrespect to any of those players at all. They all did some good things for the Baltimore Ravens, but let's be real. Those guys are not your number one receiver, and those guys are not scaring a defense at the point in their careers when they were Baltimore Ravens. So, the Nelson Aguilar kind of goes more with them. Solid receiver, but he's not that guy. He's not him. So signing OBJ, now we draft Zay Flowers, who throughout his college career put up just over 3,000 yards and had 29 touchdowns. Those are good numbers to add to an NFL roster, to an NFL wide receiving core. He ran a 4.42 40. He's got similar size in terms of height and weight with Tyreek Hill and Marquise Brown. He kind of splits them with their height and weight. And then his speed is also similar to Hollywood and Tyreek. A little bit quicker on the official 40 time than Hollywood. And then, a little bit slower than Tyreek, but Tyreek Hill is one of the fastest players in the league. In terms of his play style and kind of my initial reaction to his playing abilities, seems like he's very explosive, has his very quick feet in his route running, which allows him to, leverage, kind of create space for himself while running routes. Very explosive, leads to a lot of open times just because defenders are playing a step behind him, having to react to him. So that'll be a good thing. Seems like that's something that can translate to the next level for him. We're going to be looking for him in the slot most of the time, as well as probably initiating some sort of levels concept. That's something that our new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, is, he's been doing. He likes to put his defenders in a bind, force them to create a decision. So look for that. Zay Flowers, whether it be side to side, horizontally, or as a vertical threat, he'll be the deep guy most likely. And then you're going to have a target underneath, forcing defenders, whether it be cornerback or a middle of the field linebacker, to make a decision on which guy to cover. Whichever one that defender doesn't cover, the other guy's getting the ball. So look for that. That's kind of, that kind of goes in with Todd Monken's, philosophy, I guess, on calling plays. He loves to stress the defenders, forces them to make decisions and plays off of that. So that'll be good. Something to do with these levels in forcing defenders to make decisions is it creates a lot of mismatches for tight ends specifically. The Baltimore Ravens have Mark Andrews, top 3 tight end in the league. He's been our number 1 threat since Lamar's been in the league, since Andrews has been in the league. So we've already seen what he can do when he doesn't have as much help in terms of, scouting and drawing personnel away from him. So he's already been drawing doubles and sometimes triple coverage and still putting up the numbers he has. So look for Mark Andrews to rise up again to his peak numbers in terms of stats. Todd Monken, something else he likes to do is use the quarterback's mobility. He hasn't had a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Very few offense coordinators have that opportunity. But one thing he has liked to do is use his quarterback's mobility to kind of out-leverage or create angles, which really opens up the offense even more. We've seen him do it through college when he was with Georgia, and then also in his stints with the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2019 with the Browns and 2016 through 2018 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I believe. Definitely looking forward to Todd Monken. Of course, you can't create the levels of concepts. You can't out-leverage without a mobile quarterback, without creating a strong running foundation, which he should have no problem doing with the backfield that the Baltimore Ravens have. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, we all know what he's capable of. But then also just J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. We're hoping we can get the first season in a couple with both of them healthy for the full year. Things are looking up for Baltimore on terms of their offensive side of the ball. Coach Monken, just a couple of things I wanted to point out from his time at Georgia. In 2022, they averaged 40.7 points per game. Now that, obviously, college is a bit more high scoring, especially in the SEC, but still 41 points per game. The guy obviously knows how to analyze defenses and put his players in the best position to succeed. And also, I'm sure most of us know, Georgia was back-to-back national championship winners coming, in the 2 seasons prior to Monken coming to Baltimore. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Todd Monken, I believe, is going to put the Ravens in a much better position to succeed than Greg Roman did. I believe that Todd Monken is going to have better philosophy in terms of play calling and using his personnel and trusting what's been working in the game. If we're running the ball well, we need a couple yards. Even if the analytics say throwing a pass, trust your feeling, trust your players. I believe Monken's going to be able to do that for us. So transitioning with Monken, I've talked about how he's going to use his personnel, how he's going to, put the Baltimore offense in a position to succeed and be successful in terms of scoring points, controlling the defense, things like that. The Baltimore Ravens have really bolstered their offensive weapons this offseason. At quarterback, you got Lamar Jackson, MVP caliber player, 700-plus career win percentage. Previous MVP of the league. We all know what he can do. Then behind him, you got Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. A perfect 1-2 punch for the kind of offense that we're going to be running. And then at tight end, you got Mark Andrews, top 3 tight end in the league, and Isaiah Likely, who started to kind of show up, show his potential in the second half of the season in 2022. look for Isaiah Likely to have a bigger role this year. Probably see the field a little bit more often because of Monken's history and wanting to use two tight ends, to create those tight end mismatches like we said. And then out wide, probably the most impressive Ravens wide receiver room that Baltimore has had in a long time at least. You got Rashad Bateman. He'll be healthy. He'll be ready to go. We've seen what he did last year. He had some crazy catches. He's a big body receiver, explosive, can attack the ball. Odell Beckham Jr. is now a Baltimore Raven. We know what he can do. He's explosive. He finds a way to get in the end zone. He makes it electric. He draws the defensive eyes. All things that are going to benefit Baltimore. Then we got our first-round draft pick this year, Zay Flowers. That dude has the ability to find green grass. Simple as that. And then if there is contested ball, look up Zay Flowers highlights. He can go up and get it, even if there's a defender right there. He finds a way to come down with the ball. Then you got kind of rounding out the wide receiving core, Devin Duvernay. We've seen flashes of how good he can be when he's healthy. We all know what he can do returning the ball. But Devin Duvernay will round that out, as well as Nelson Aguilar. The Ravens signed him for a reason. If he's going to be our wide receiver 5, I believe that puts us in a good position with those 5 receivers. And I'm excited to see what they can do. And then kind of just, looking ahead, what can you expect from the Ravens? It's currently Friday at about 11:30 a.m. And you got the second and third round of the draft tonight, as well as the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th tomorrow. Kind of Ravens' positional needs that they still need to address is we need to add cornerback depth. That's been a thing that, the Ravens have been looking for, something we need. So don't be surprised if you see them using our one selection on Friday with a corner. We don't know what's going on with Marcus Peters. We have Marlon Humphrey, obviously, but we're gonna need a little more than that to just help cover the receivers of the AFC. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase. A lot of big name receivers in the AFC that we're gonna be playing. So we're gonna need a way to cover them and help out the rest of our defense. Another position the Ravens should be looking for is edge rushers. We lost Calais Campbell. We lost Houston, at least for now. I'm not sure if he's signed somewhere. We do have David Ojabo, who we drafted in the second round last year. We saw a little bit of him last year, but we don't really know what his future looks like and what he's able to bring to the table fully at the NFL level. So look for them to get some edge depth to kind of go with Odafe Owe and David Ojabo. And the last position that we're kind of going to be looking for is offensive lineman. Probably more specifically, interior offensive guards. The reason we're going to be looking for this is because Powers is gone. Kevin Zeidler, he is on his last year of his current contract. He was really good last year for the Baltimore Ravens, but like I said, last year of his contract, and I believe he's 33 years old. So it's getting up there in age, especially for an offensive lineman. So look for those 3 positions the Ravens should be looking at in the next 2 days of the draft here. The Ravens currently hold picks 86, 124, 157, and 199. If any of you guys are wondering how come the Baltimore Ravens don't have a second-round pick. Last season, the Baltimore Ravens traded that second-round pick for said Roquan Smith, who was phenomenal. Helped the Ravens have top 5 defense since Roquan went to Baltimore, weeks 8 through 17, or 8 through 18. So you're trading a second rounder for an all-pro defender. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's better than 25 to 30 of those second-round draft picks are going to be. So I'll take that. That's going to do all for today's podcast. Like I said, please follow on Spotify here. Share it with your fellow NFL and Ravens fans. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to try and get back on this. Try and be consistent with the podcast. Thanks for listening. Follow, share. Check me out on Instagram at Wedge52. Gridiron. Have a good day. Go Ravens.